Okay, thanks so much for joining us today on this episode, this beginning episode of Season 2 of the Toward Creativity podcast. We're back at it, and as an added feature and bonus, we are videotaping. It's not videoing, it's videotaping. We are videotaping this episode live, and as you can see, I'm making all kinds of mistakes, and that's okay. I'm putting it up on my YouTube channel, so just go ahead and search Benjamin Harding in the YouTube app or whatever search engine, and you're going to come up with my YouTube channel, and you're going to be able to see Benjamin Harding recording live this new season of Toward Creativity. We're here to help you to build a sustainable creative career and give you the tools, tips, and strategies to do so. So thank you so much for riding this wave with us, and you can join us on Facebook in our private group. Okay, so just search Toward Creativity with Benjamin Harding and you're going to come up with our group. I'll get you the tag later in another episode, but if you want to join us, you can DM me on Instagram, you can email me through my website, benjaminharding.net, and let's get in touch. Let's help you build a sustainable creative career. Okay, today we're going to look at 3 things that I think are needed in building a sustainable creative career. 3 things that I'm going to look at through the lens of a classical pianist. Yikes, that is a niche market. But we're going to do it anyway, because I think if we look at sort of difficult markets and difficult circumstances and difficult kind of creative journeys, and we develop a plan to be creative, to be inspired, to move the art form forward, we're going to be in good shape. So I chose my area in classical piano playing. When was the last time you were at a classical music concert? Seriously, even pre-pandemic, I would gather most of us, if we're not like classical musicians performing in those concerts, I would say that it's few and far between at best. I ask my family this all the time, and they're well-educated folks that have university educations and they're doing quite well financially. And I ask those folks, hey, when was the last time you were at a classical music concert? And usually I get crickets, because they have to think about it. They have to think about it for quite some time. And so to build a sustainable creative career in the classical music industry is one of the hardest things to do. It's not impossible though. And hear me, it's never been more possible to develop an entrepreneurial path within the classical music industry. I mean, big organizations are rethinking their connection with the public post-COVID, post-pandemic. I mean, you might have seen this latest article, right? Some orchestras are, gasp, removing the tails, the tucks and tails from the performers on stage. I mean, this is one of the greatest moves ever. And I say it's about time, because when you go to an orchestra concert, right? When you go to an orchestra concert, sometimes you feel like you're living in Downton Abbey. And Downton Abbey happened around the sinking of the Titanic 100 years ago. And we need to build that affection and connection with new audiences in the classical music industry. And so orchestras are taking it upon themselves to remove the tails, remove the tuxes and tails, and dress nicely, of course, nicely, but within the context of culture, today so that they're more relatable when you go to an orchestra concert. And I get it. So these are the kinds of conversations that folks, large organizations are having. But I'll tell you, we can have more unique and nuanced conversations as independent creators, than the large organizations can have. We can have nuanced and really nimble approaches within our entrepreneurial framework that actually is going to build a sustainable and, dare I say it, profitable and prosperous creative life. And so we're going to jump in to a couple of three things, not a couple of. We're going to dive into three. You can tell that I am recording live. And I'm waving to folks on my YouTube channel right now. You can tell that I'm recording live. I'm making lots of mistakes here. But we're going to dive into three things that will help you frame up your creative career. And we're going to do this in the context of looking through the lens of a classical pianist and building a career. All right, let's go. The first thing that we need are interpreters. We need interpreters. And what I mean by that is we still need to be connected to the rich tradition of the past. We need to be connected with the artists that have gone before us. In order to move that art form forward, whatever area you're in, you need to be connected with it and interpret it and absorb that great canon of work, whatever it might be in your particular area. For me as a pianist, it means that I work really, really hard on a day-to-day basis on interpreting music that has been handed down from generation to generation. It means that my routine of practicing is between 2 and 3 hours a day just to keep up my chops. If I want to move forward in becoming a better player, I need to up that time per day. 2 to 3 hours is just maintaining what I have. And I went to conservatory and state schools and private schools to study with teachers, and my family invested hundreds of thousands of dollars for my career. And I owe it to them to practice and to interpret this incredible body of music that has been handed down from generation to generation. And I count it as a calling, actually. Hear me out. I count it as a calling to interpret this amazing music for audiences and bring this incredible music that deserves a hearing to you in an approachable way, not in a pretentious way, but in an approachable way so that you can experience this incredible thinking and this incredible artistry. And that's my calling. That's what I need to do in this world, okay? Is to interpret this music and to bring it to bear on you, an audience member, okay? We need interpreters. We need people that are going to be invested in their craft historically. Let me just move to the area of jazz. Hello, you need to dive in to those recordings and transcribe those solo parts that make Herbie Hancock spectacular and a genius, an absolute genius. You need to transcribe that music and understand where this music has come from so that you can, in our next area of need, I guess that's what we're calling it, right? Need, we've got interpreters. The next category that we need is innovators. And this gets tricky for the classical piano player, right? Because I've devoted my entire life to learn other people's music. That's kind of interesting, right? I've devoted my entire life to learn how to interpret. And it's interesting because I asked our students the other day at Cairn University, great school. It's got a great school of music because of the great students that are in it and the great faculty and staff that serve them. It's a great school. And I asked them, hey, what is holding you back from being an innovator, a creator in your particular discipline? What's holding you back? Because I asked them earlier in the class, what makes Chopin, Frédéric Chopin, Franz Liszt, and Hector Berlioz innovative within their particular areas? And we had a list. For example, with Chopin, the man was an absolute genius. An absolute genius. He wrote so idiomatically for the piano. He wrote in such a way to teach us as pianists to play this really new instrument that was really beginning to take shape within the Industrial Revolution. And he showed us how to play it with his etudes and with his mazurkas and with his polonaises and his nocturnes. He wrote so particularly for the piano, or idiomatically for the piano, that he unraveled some of the mystery within piano technique. And he revolutionized how we approach the instrument. And don't get me started on Franz Liszt. I adore Franz Liszt. He created the recital. He was basically the first rock star in the Western world. I mean, people would go nuts when he played. He invented symphonic poems, which are character pieces, one movement work character pieces. If you are so inclined to know, one of his works, incredible works, is called Les Préludes. Franz Liszt, amazing. We owe so much to him. And then Hector Berlioz, he had this idea to connect an entire work with one fixated obsession. And he called it the idée fixe. And this became the leitmotif in the music of Wagner. And it became the theme for Darth Vader in the music of John Williams, because John Williams took the ideas of Wagner and of Berlioz and applied them to these incredible scores and movies that he scored for, like Star Wars, Harry Potter, Superman, Jaws, Indiana Jones. I could go on and on. These musicians in the 19th century were so innovative, and there's no reason why you can't be innovative in this day and age. What happened to the classical music world and the classical piano world is this. There was such a focus on the performer, especially in the latter half of the 20th century, maybe 2/3 of the 20th century, where the composer pianist became the composer over here and the pianist over here. I'm thinking of one of my favorite artists of all time, Sergei Rachmaninoff. He was a composer, yes, but he was also one of the most gifted pianists that has ever walked the face of the earth. He was one and the same. He could play, but he could also compose. It brings me to the place where I need to say to myself, I need to get over myself, and you might need to get over yourself too, to become an innovator in your industry. We need to create we need to create. As we've dedicated our lives to interpreting and studying the great works of art, we need to take that incredible knowledge and incredible interpretive skill and bring it to our creativity and innovation. What kinds of things can you innovate? Can you create in your creative world? That might mean different things for different people. It might mean that you need to start your own business and be creative in that enterprise. Maybe you need to be like me and start eschewing the self-doubt and sort of imposter syndrome that's related to creating something new in composition and musical composition. So I've started writing down some musical ideas and playing through them and improvising and trying to understand what's there. And it's a lot of fun. I hope that soon I'll be able to get some of this music out on this very YouTube channel, if you're watching on YouTube, and maybe even share it on this podcast, Toward Creativity Podcast. But we need interpreters. Yes, we need people that are going to study the great works. And then number two, we need innovators. We need innovators that are going to take that incredible foundation that you have laid and build upon it and innovate. And number three, we need explorers. We need people, creative people, to explore this world. I was amazed. I was absolutely blown away. We had a library presentation. I know, nerd alert, I'm talking about a library. We had a library presentation in one of our classes. A librarian came and showed us the different kind of research portals that are out there related to the arts, related to any discipline you can think of, really. Friends, I went to the University of Maryland, right? And by God's grace and the patience of my wife and blessed teacher and advisor, Bradford Gowan, graduated. And back in the day when I was doing that work, it was amazing. I mean, the research capability was incredible then. Fast forward almost 10 years later, it's insane. My jaw was on the floor when she was explaining what's available for our students. We need explorers, people that are going to sift through the fake research, the fake news, the fake creativity, the stuff that is so mundane and superficial and that causes absolute... I made a mistake, and I'm just going to start that again. It's causing a mental health crisis with our kids in social media. All that fake stuff. That stuff is just so temporal. The stuff that's just so depressing and so trivial. It's a hit of dopamine, and then you go away and feel bad about your life. We need explorers to go beyond the superficial and go to the deep down things in life, to quote Gerard Manley Hopkins. We need people that are going to explore the deep down things in life. And so we need explorers who are courageous. We need explorers who are courageous. Now, here's a little bonus. Here's a little bonus. You ready for this? You are all of those things. You're an innovator. You're an interpreter. And you are an explorer. I'm going to steal I'm not going to steal. I don't steal. I borrow, but I also footnote, okay? I footnote my comments and where they come from. My dear colleagues, Dr. Stephen and Laura McCullum, have introduced to me, or at the very least, reinvigorated this idea of triangulation. The triangle is one of the most powerful shapes. And can you imagine that you would triangulate your creative life around these three sides? If you're on the YouTube and you're seeing I'm making a triangle, it's not a very good triangle. There we go. That's a little better. And maybe one of the sides over here is interpretation, and then the other side is innovation, and then the bottom part is exploration. You, my friend, are all three of those things. All three of those things. And you can orient your creative journey, your creative business, your creative career around those three things. I think we're going to be in really good shape in building a sustainable creative career, don't you? So if you're interested in continuing this conversation, DM me at bhardingmusic on Instagram. You can also join our Facebook group on Facebook. And we would like to continue this conversation with you, because we're here to help you to be empowered, to be encouraged, to be built up in your creative journey, because we're all moving toward creativity. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'll talk to you soon.